There's something in the air over the Holy Land, and investigators feel it's not of this world.
The soil appeared to be melting, and there is no explanation. This does not occur in nature.
Next, whatever landed on Israel's Shikmona Beach left behind some very peculiar evidence.
To my astonishment, the soil appeared to be melting.
On a previous edition of Sightings, we brought you the story of 3 women in Israel, all of whom claim to have had contact with an extraterrestrial being. Sightings investigated evidence at the scene, including crop circles and mysterious silicon shards. And the investigative team learned that this was not the only case in which physical evidence could be found after a UFO sighting in the Holy Land. In the annals of modern UFO hotspots, Israel has been a blank page.
When I researched my book, the only public mention of UFOs that I found were from 1952, from Haifa. There were 2 sightings. That is all I could find until Shikmona.
Barry Chamish is an author and journalist who has written about a recent rash of UFO sightings and encounters that began suddenly in 1987.
This is on the evening of Rosh Hashanah in 1987. Ami Achrai is returning home from Tel Aviv, his home in Kiryat Bialik, near Haifa. There is a beach called Shikmona, just before the city of Haifa. He sees a red object fly into the air, hover, dip.
Underneath there was a red glowing spot about 1.5 meters in diameter. There were immense flashlights, and there was a very loud noise, a whirlpool, as if a helicopter was going to crash.
He stops his car, gets out of the car, sees the object return, and there is a huge flash.
It suddenly disappeared. Only a big red spot remained, and in a second, it leaped into the sky and vanished.
Ami was shaken by the inexplicable UFO encounter. He tried to put it behind him, to dismiss it as an asteroid or a comet, but something drew him back to the scene. And in the daylight, he found concrete remnants of his experience.
Imagine intense heat burning sand and vegetation in the shape of a UFO. Inscribed in the right-hand corner, a clear-cut picture of an astronaut in front of the dashboard.
Not only was there an indelible image in the sand, testing at the site revealed the ground itself had taken on unusual properties.
The land was 671% more magnetic than usual land.
At the request of Sightings, soil samples were taken from the scorched earth at Shikmona Beach for a detailed analysis by biophysicist W.C. Levengood. His findings confirmed that the ground had new characteristics.
One was sort of astounded by the tremendous change in the ratios of the elements. For example, ordinary zinc was increased 104 times, whereas our other elements stayed absolutely the same.
But that finding paled in comparison to what Dr. Levengood found while he was preparing to take a photomicrograph of the soil sample.
As I was adjusting the camera to get the photograph, to my astonishment, the soil appeared to be melting. What I found here was that there was a coating on the soil of a very low melting material. I have consulted with a geophysicist, and there is no explanation. This does not occur in nature. There's no natural way that this amount of hydrocarbon would be on the soil.
5 months after the Shikmona Beach sighting, just 1 mile away in the city of Haifa, Rosetta Kalfan and her family spotted bizarre lights in the sky. They were able to film the UFO with a home movie camera.
We were chatting, and suddenly my sister looked up towards the window and saw a glittering light in the air. I got up quickly, and we both rushed over to the window. I told her, "Do you know what that is? That is a UFO."
The light was golden.
like nothing I've ever seen in my life. A real light beam radiating out from it. It was shocking, truly shocking.
There was a UFO that stayed there 17 minutes over the sea and then disappeared very quickly until it became small as a star.
You see windows, and this is possibly the most outstanding feature. And certainly in the film, you'll see that at the beginning, Rafi Malka is clever enough to get background. There's no mistaking this as part of the features of the hill or the Haifa area. It's not a natural feature, it's certainly dangling in the air. It moves, it has lights, and it was witnessed by experts. I believe that it was a tremendously documented UFO.
2 years later, in 1991, Yossi Ben Maas was leaving his real estate business in Haifa for his home in nearby Beit She'an. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he was nearly blinded by a brilliant shaft of light.
There was a huge sheet of light. It was right before my eyes. It was spectacular. It was a very calming light, but I was afraid it would go to Beit She'an, where my friends and family are. So all of a sudden, it changes course, as if it was reading my mind, a kind of telepathy between us.
Yossi immediately called the Beit She'an Police Department.
Chief of Police, Yitzchak Mordechai, is awoken at 3 in the morning, goes outside, sees an enormous object in the air.
It looked a little bit like a boomerang, but it was a shape that I never saw before. It had a unique power and color, a special glow which was very different from anything I saw before. I didn't know how to react.
He radios in to headquarters, calls the Air Force, says, "This is what I got."
They asked for the exact location of the object. I gave them the location, and they couldn't find the object on the radar.
Because of Beit She'an's close proximity to the Jordanian border, the Israeli Defense Forces sent 300 troops into the area to track the unidentified craft.
It was dragging a convoy of armed men for 3 hours on a trail up to the Jordanian border, which is a very sensitive place, but it seems to know where the Jordanian border is, and heads back. At 5:45 in the morning, in broad daylight, it disappeared in a flash.
Chamish has developed a controversial theory that these 3 UFO sightings are part of a pattern dating back to biblical times.
People who have been studying UFOs seriously around the world have reached the consensus that the Bible is a convincing UFO story. I came to the same conclusion that the Old Testament, from the pillar, the cloud that led the Hebrews out of Egypt, that glowed at night and stopped the Egyptians, all the way through the prophets, were, in fact, UFO related.
Chamish also believes that stories of alien abductions in Kadima, as reported previously on Sightings, are also part of the centuries-old pattern.
Shikmona, they were announcing in black and white, "We are here." At Beit She'an, they're saying, "All right, now we've got 500-600 of you seeing us, and you can shoot at us if you want to." Kadima was stage 3, "We want to meet you."
And stage 4, according to Chamish, is foretold in a prophetic passage from the Bible.
From Kedem, they shall go up to Jerusalem. In other words, Kadima is the next hop towards the revelation of the UFOs in Jerusalem.
The investigation in Israel is ongoing. A Sightings team is now following up on late reports of activity in the town of Yatzitz on the Mediterranean Sea. An eyewitness there claims that he has evidence of UFO contact in the form of mysterious footprints. Sightings will bring you more on this story after the investigation is complete.